Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to make a hard beat, especially a hard Detroit beat for the guys such as Rio the Young OG and RMC Mike, two of the hardest rappers coming out of Detroit/Michigan. They go super hard. If you haven't heard their stuff, give it a listen. And before we get into this, guys, thanks again a lot for the 1,000 subs. Appreciate the love. Let's just keep pushing it. 2023, big things. Got a kit dropping soon, so follow the Instagram, keep yourself posted, and last but not least, already got a few free kits down below for you guys, so help yourself to it. But without further ado, let's just start the video. First things first, for these kinds of beats, such as Rio the Young OG and RMC Mike, I've noticed for these Detroit beats to go for the really high BPM range. I'm talking like 180 to 200, 170 on a lucky day, but keeping it super high. And as we can see, I've got this at 180 BPM in a D minor scale. And the first plugin, of course, as we can see, is Analog Lab 5 using the Alpha Piano preset. So from what we can see, the pattern is super simple, and when we analyze it, we are primarily making use of these notes here and here, which are notes which are one semitone apart, or you could just say one note apart if you don't really get the terminology. And this just means when notes are one little bit apart, as we can see, a semitone apart, creates a nice little dark vibe, that tension that we like for these dark beats, especially the Detroit beats for the RMC Mikes and the Rio the Young OGs. And of course, we start off every beat with literally the root note playing. Click Alt R to randomize the velocity to give it a bit more like a human character. And without further ado, this is what the main melody sounds like. And there we have it. As we can hear already, it's like a nice little plucky sound. For the effects, the first thing I got is an EQ, as we can see, cutting off literally all the lows. And then as we can see as well, I've got myself a bit of a shaper box going on here with a little pan effect at a 30% mix, just to give it a bit of movement, but it's so subtle that it just adds a little bit of flavor. And then last but not least, of course, we need some reverb just to add a bit of ambience and some, volume to the whole sound. And as we can see, the final thing I did was just stereo separate the sound around 23%. Next up, we got an instance of Piano V3, and we are using the basic preset American Home Clean. And of course, this can't be a Detroit beat without the stabbing piano notes, so went down of course to my lower octaves, as we can see from the D2 and the D3. Same pattern, just playing to give it a very nice hard bounce. No strumming, just straight stabs, repeats every 4 bars, we could see here, following like that 808 bounce, as you could see, and leaving a little note in between to add some tension. Sounds really hard, but it's really that simple. Again, these beats are just fast paced, hard and dark, and without further ado, this is what the stab of the piano sounds like. And there we have it. As we can see, it already adds that extra little dark feel to it, filling in a bit of that low end. So for the effects, they are quite super simple. Literally got an EQ again, cutting off all of these lows, and just added a very subtle amount of reverb just to add a bit more space to the sound. Next up, we got ourselves an instance of Expand 2, and the preset we are using is the soft legato strings, which can be found in the strings bank. And as we can see, it's literally just a one note playing on the D itself. And the reason I do this is because sometimes just having a one note, a high octave or a low octave, or however you want it, just creates this nice little bit of tension, giving a bit of a dark atmosphere, thinking like, when is this note gonna end? That's just how it goes mentally without really thinking, but really adds a nice layer needed to the whole melody, also helping fill in that whole frequency range. But without further ado, this is what the melody sounds like. And there we have it. And as you can see already, just having them like simple notes, simple repetitive melody, it really does the job. Sometimes overthinking it can actually just kill your beats, so remember, sometimes simplicity is key. Let's not just deep it. And of course, for the effects, simple and straightforward. EQ cutting off all the unwanted lows. Then of course, some Valhalla vintage verb just to add a bit of, ambience and reverb to the sound. And then last but not least, I stereo separated this super widely, just so it could be like a nice little bit of ear candy to call. And when the beat plays itself, you'll know why. And now, last but not least, for the melodic component, we got ourselves an instance of Omnisphere, and I'm using this pluck bell sound that I found, and of course in the Bells and Vibes bank, and it's called the Celeste Bells. As we can see, of course, from the pattern, very simple, straightforward, a nice repeating pattern for this first 4 bar, making use of course of the root note and these 2 notes, as we can see, which are part of the tension being in the scale, as you can see from the highlighted notes. And then just for a bit of variation, I just switched it up a bit, one note into another, a bit of tension, a bit of a dark vibe, and that's all I actually needed. As for the effects, all I did is whack an EQ, calling off a few of these harsh frequencies and all of these lows, and then of course a bit of a hollow vintage reverb just to add a bit of ambience to the sound again. Stereo separated it around 50% just to, you know, give a bit of stereo separation in the mix, and it's very, very noticeable when you have your headphones on. So without further ado, this is what the full sample sounds like. And there we have it, guys. Super hard sample, but now let's just go straight into the drums. So of course, first thing to note is, starting off the drums, you guys have the clap and snare pattern, but in my opinion, for these Detroit beats for Rio the Young OG and RMC Mike, just stick to a snare. It really does the job, to be honest. And simple pattern, of course, is all we need. So let's just move to the hi-hats. And as you can see, it's a very simple pattern. A two-step, because that's actually all you need again with a Detroit beat. It's not really that deep. It's really, really simple. And all I did was just add this nice little roll at the end for variation. But without further ado, of course, this is what the snare alongside the hi-hat sounds like. And there we have it. Super nice already, and we haven't even got to the main section of the drums. And next up, of course, we also have a Spins 808 from my, you know, up and coming drum kit in the works. Don't worry, guys, it's going to be dropping soon, but, you know, keep up with it on my IG and the YouTube. But of course, I'm using this nice little classic Spins from the free kit that's going to come out soon. And as we can see, what I've done here is I've upped the out knob of the Spins 808 from what we could see. And then as well as that, I went to the EQ, I upped it by 10, went onto the boost, upped it by 5% ish, and this can be done by clicking just this little thing here. And to access all of this actually is just go on your channel rack, click on the Spins 808, and as we can see, that's how we adjust the out knob, and that's how we can adjust the EQ, and that's how we can adjust the boost. Now going into the pattern itself, from what we can see, I'm using a classic Detroit pattern, which is just, you know, your first 3 808 bounce coming in nice and hard. And of course, what I did was just I maxed out my velocities, and the way I did that, I clicked Control A to highlight all my notes, and then using the scroller wheel on my mouse, I clicked and I scrolled up, as you can see, just till it maxes out. And I do this for my kicks and my 808s because honestly, it makes them come off so much harder, goes so good on Detroit beats, and to be honest, all of your beats, it really, really just helps add that punchiness that you're looking for in your drums. So from me to you, take it on board. As for the kick pattern, from what we can see here, using my kick from the kit, simple kick pattern, just following the 808, of course. And without further ado, this is what the 808 alongside the kick sounds like. And there we have it. Now, last but not least, I'm going to be going through all the different perks that are there, and then I'll play the full beat. First things first, I've got this nice little perk called the tick perk, and it's because it sounds a bit like a tick. So if I click it, you guys can hear, of course, it sounds like a nice little like bouncing tick sound. And I just have it playing literally once every 4 bars, we can see here, just to give it a bit of a bounce. And of course, when we go into the mixing channel, from what we can see here, I've actually panned it a bit to the left, just to give it a bit more of a bounce, giving it a bit of variety throughout the whole beat. Next up for perks, we got ourselves a zap perk, which comes in at the end of every 4 bars, we can see here. This is kind of like, you know, when you have your snare rolls and your normal trap beats and stuff, it's pretty much just that, but with a zap. And this is what the zap is. Nice little sound. And what I did with this was I stereo separated the zap 50% to the right, so I panned it around 50% to the right, so we have this nice little like bounce and forth. We have this nice little like back and forth bounce between all the different perks that I play. And then last but not least, I got myself this perk, which I call it the run the fade perk, because hey bro, if you hear this perk on the beat, you know the guy's gonna run the fade on you. We all know that perk. It's a classic Detroit perk. And also what I've actually done, if you go on control, by clicking here with your left click pan, as you can see, I have manually panned it to the left and the right of my headphones, just to add that extra bounce again. Now, when I play the whole beat, you'll hear how these things come into play, how the stereo separation is very much needed for the sample, and why the panning just sounds super dope overall alongside the drums. So guys, this is what the full Detroit beat sounds like. And there we have it, folks. But before I wrap up the video, let me just walk through the beat breakdown and how I structured it. But before we wrap up the video, guys, let me just break down to you all how I structured this beat. First things first, of course, looking at the intro. Nice 8-bar intro coming in first of all with the main melody, and then just introducing this nice little zap to roll into the chorus alongside these keys that come in halfway. You start off with, you know, the main melody and the piano alongside all of these drums with the little zap. But then into the second part of the chorus, I introduced this nice little like lucky bell, which we had at the end, alongside the rest of the perks, just to add that full bound. And now looking into the actual breakdown of the verse, which is just 3 different 8 bars. First start off with the piano and the main melody, and I kind of cut it off at the first 4 bars, as we can see. These first 2 bars of each 4, put them out, gives it a nice little bit of a bounce, of course giving that variation that we're looking for. And I kept all the essential drums in. But then coming into the second part of the verse, which is, you know, the 16th bar, then coming into the second part of the verse, as we can see, I just introduced some perks now, introduced this nice little plucky bell that we had in the main chorus. For the pre-hook, I introduced a new element, which was the string, of course, giving it a nice little bit of tension, giving it a nice little build up back into the main melody. And then of course I copy and paste the chorus in again, create a new pattern for the verse, which is another 3 8 bars, as you guys can see here, just to vary it up a bit. So just have a nice little look of how I use the strings again, as you can see, how I implement the perk, how I implement the pluck later on, how I even do the arrangement of my hi-hats. And guys, to be honest, if you're interested in how I do my mixing, how I do my arrangements and all that kind of stuff, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make a video based on that kind of stuff. And of course, last but not least, I got myself the chorus yet again, and there we have it, folks. So to break it down, 1 8-bar introduction, 3 2 8-bar choruses, and then 2 24-bar verses. So guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this beat. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.